Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Juliana. If you are new here, you are highly welcome, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a ranking one. I'll be ranking all of my Glamlite palette, all 12 of them. I've got 12 Glamlite palettes, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we get into the ranking, I just want to say something. The last two palettes that they've released I've not bought. The Real Velvet palette I feel is exactly like my Beauty Bay Valentine palette, and because of that I didn't buy the Real Velvet palette. And same goes with the latest one that they've just come out with. And I just wanted to notice as I show you the palette, I feel like all the colors have been done. If they had just concentrated on the lower half, like the greens, and excluded the purples in that new palette, the collaboration they've had, I probably would have been tempted. But with all the purples, it was just too much. And as you will see in all the palettes I'll be ranking, there's quite a few purples in there. So I feel like I don't need it, and I don't intend to buy it. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know I love Glamlite. I love all their formulas. So my ranking is not going to be based on like maybe shadow or a palette is rubbish or whatever. I love all of the palettes. I just love some more than the other. I love some formulas more than the other. And I think they've been a while now at it, so they've gotten better as well. So I feel like the new palettes are more of my preference than the older ones that they have. So none of these palettes are bad. None of these palettes are adored. It's just with ranking, one is going to come first and one is going to come last. So in 12th position is going to be the Miracle palette, and I believe this is one of the oldest one that they've had. So in my opinion, I don't believe it's got the wow factor that Glamlite has today. So for me, this is why it's coming in at number 12, and also because it's got mostly pink shades in them. So that's why it's number 12. And in the 11th position is going to have to be the Pizza palette. This palette, it's beautiful, but it's mostly mattes. And if you've known me for a bit, you know I love my shimmers. And this is mostly mattes. This palette has got only 3 shimmers. It's 3 shimmers. I mean, the mattes are absolutely gorgeous, no doubt about that. Whenever I'm working with only shimmer palettes, I tend to reach for palettes like this. In terms of using it as a whole, for me, I don't tend to reach for this because it's only got 3 shimmers. What am I going to do with 3 shimmers? And also with the 3 shimmers, none of them you can use for your inner corner. So then I have to reach into another palette on top of the fact that it doesn't have enough shimmers. That's why it's number 11 for me. Okay, in the 10th position is going to be the Pro paint palette. This is the second paint palette that they are doing. This is number 10 for me because and you will see with a few others as well, it's mainly a purple palette. So it's like, majority of the shades really are purple and then pink. Nothing wrong with that. If the shimmers had been different colors, oh, I would have loved that. But as it happens, the shimmers happen to be majority of the purple as well. So I mean, I wouldn't gravitate towards this kind of shimmers. I tend to go for oranges, red, bright shimmers, really. Bright shimmers that I can use to transform my matte shades. Those are the kind of shades I tend to go towards. I mean, I use this kind of shades. I love them. But if I was going to use this palette, maybe, for example, in a month, once I've used this once, that's it. I'm not going to touch the palette again. I'm already bored with it. I tend to love palettes with bright shimmers, and that's the reason why the Paint Pro palette is coming in at number 10. In 9th place is going to be the original paint palette, and this is coming at number 9 for almost the same reason as number 10 is. Just because it's got majority of purples and blues as well. Again, this hasn't got your bright shimmers. It's got this too, this yellow and whitish kind of. But if this had like a red shimmer or an orange shimmer, or this would have come higher up in my ranking, and that's the only reason really. Number 8 is gonna have to be the Big Burger palette, and this is the inside of the palette. Now I love this palette, especially because of the greens. Oh, the greens are really what sells me on this palette. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I mean, the only thing is with the shimmer shades, especially the ones I like, they are quite oily. I don't know if you can see oil staining. So that's what tends to put me off this palette, but I love this palette. That shade, even though it's pink, oh, absolutely beautiful. I'll just swatch these 2 shades for you from this palette. These are the shades, and this is not common at all. I absolutely love this palette. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful. So the Burger palette is at number 8 for me. I mean, I love it. I just love the others more. In 7th place is going to be the Donut palette. I absolutely love this palette as well, even though it's got the purples. I mean, look at that. This blue are what sells me in this palette. Is so beautiful. I mean, having the blue with the pink and purple is absolutely genius, and that's why this palette is coming higher up in my ranking. I love it. The combinations of the blue, of the purple, of everything, it is just absolutely perfect. I mean, even though it's a small palette, I believe it's just beautiful. I mean, it's enough. It's enough, especially if you are a purple lover or a blue lover. It's absolutely beautiful. And you can also mix the shades. If you haven't got like a darker pink enough, you could mix it with the purples. You know, do whatever you want. The combination is just so beautiful. And that's why the Donut palette is number 7 for me. Alright, the palette I'm ranking in the 6th place is actually a surprise for me, because I never thought this palette would ever come higher up when I'm ranking it, and it is the Pie palette. And this is the inside of the Pie palette. I mean, if you look at this and you know me, you know that this is not as colorful as I would love it, but for whatever reason, this palette is just pulling magic for me. And the first time I used this palette, I was surprised. The look I came up with from this palette, I wasn't expecting it. I don't know how I ended up with a reddish like look, but it was just beautiful. And this middle shade here, this is a blush, and this blush is absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. Gorgeous blush. This is an example of what I mentioned earlier, as in I preferred lighter shimmers. I mean, as you can see, these are like light reflective shimmers that you can use to transform your look. And I will just quickly swatch 3 of them. Actually, I swatched 4, but these are the shimmers in that palette. You see, I think shimmers can take your look to the extra level that you need. Also, the variety of a shimmer in a palette determines the number of looks you can come up in that palette, because it doesn't matter how many mattes might be in it. If you've got different variation of shimmers, you can use it to transform your look in such a way that you don't repeat looks. You can come up with multiple looks, you know, from that palette, just with whatever little of the shades that might be in that palette, just because of the shimmers, because of the variety of the shimmers. And for that is why this palette is coming in at number 6 for me. Okay, in 5th place is going to be the Mini Burger palette. I love this palette. I absolutely love this palette. I mean, there's only 9 shades in it, but it's 9 shades of gorgeous. I mean, look at that. That blue, oh, I love turquoise blue. I love colors that are just so unusual. I mean, if you're new to this channel, I love red, I love green, I love browns, but extra colors that I like pop of colors, one of them is turquoise blue. So for me, turquoise blue is always going to sell me in any palette. I mean, look at that, how gorgeous that shade is. So beautiful. If only for this shade in this palette, it's enough. Look how beautiful that is. So beautiful. It makes a lot of difference in this palette. And then in addition to this shimmer and this one, as well as that orange, it just sells this palette for me. And that's why it's number 5 for me, the Mini Burger palette. From here on, my ranking is going to be based on the color story of this palette, because they are equally beautiful. The shades are equally perfect in no particular order. I mean, the mattes are lovely, the shimmers are gorgeous. So this ranking of the last 4 palettes for me is the color story. And talking of color story, coming in at number 4 is the Street Taco palette. And this is what it looks like. So it's like the mini version of the big taco palette, and these are the colors inside. Look at that. It's just a mini palette, but the colors, they just pack a punch. You know, the story is absolutely beautiful. This purple, I don't love purples, but this onion purple, beautiful. And in combination with the green and the orange, with this light green, this palette is perfect. It's absolutely perfect, and you can come up with so many combinations of look. Even though this palette is so small, with this small palette you can come up with a different variation of different looks, and that's what I love about palettes. That's why this is definitely number 4. I love the Street Taco one. It's an absolutely gorgeous palette, and I'm just going to swatch 2 shades from it for you. So this is Red Onions, and this is guacamole. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, but look at that. Even the combination of these two. Oh, so beautiful. So this palette for me, definitely number 4. Okay, ranking in at number 3 is the ice cream palette, and this is a pastel palette. It's not your bright colors, but they are beautiful colors. Let me just bring this closer so you can see. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. I just love this palette. They pack a punch. Even despite the fact that they are pastel colors, they pack a punch. And the shimmers, don't even get me started. They are absolutely gorgeous. And again, I'll swatch 4 for you. These are the 4 shades I'm swatching. Oh, look at that green. Oh, beautiful. Looks like ice cream. Definitely the name fits it. Look at the shades in this palette. So I love my shimmers. I just love shimmers. And look at how colorful that is. There are 2 palettes left to rank. So in second position is going to be the Taco palette. I am ranking Taco palette as number 2. Now again, just like the Street Taco palette, this is a beautiful color story, but it's different. And I'm just going to show you the little one compared to this. So for the name of what the palette is supposed to be, a taco palette, they've kind of maintained the orange presence in this palette. But look at the variations, you know, things that they put in and things that they took out. This is got the old taco palette has got more of greens in it. So you've got your darker green, your very dark green. But look at the Street Taco. The onion shade, that purple shade and that green shade just gives it a little bit of variation from, you know, the original one. That is absolutely beautiful. In fact, now I'm wondering why I ranked this lower than this. I mean, the reason why I rank this definitely on second is because it's got more of different shades. It's got variety of shades more than the mini one, the Street Taco one. So I love this palette. Yeah, the Taco palette gives you depth, and because of shades like this, it's just unique and unusual. This one, this green, and I'm just going to swatch, especially this one. It's quite unique. It's not something I have in a lot of my palettes, so for me it's quite unique. So I'm going to swatch these 3, and this is the one that I love it so much. Look at that. Beautiful. I want to say wine, but it's not really wine. It's like a how would I describe it? Like a wineish brown. Oh, beautiful. I mean, look at that. That orange. Oh, absolutely yummy. I love this palette. Another reason why this is coming in at number 2 for me is the fact that you can do complete looks within this palette. I mean, if you think about it, you've got your purple matte, you've got your purple shimmer, you've got your orange, you've got even 2 variety of red and orange. You can mix all of that together. Even your green, they are a look on their own, and then you've got this pop of yellow here as your inner corner highlight, as well as this. So this is a perfect palette for me. This you can even use for a complete week, you know, and not repeat any looks. For a week you can completely use this palette, different shades, you know, different looks, and you won't repeat anyone and you won't get bored. So that's why the Taco palette is number 2 for me. And in first position is none other than the Cake palette. I don't know what palette they can come out with that can take this off number 1 spot for me. It is absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. This is the most beautiful rainbow palette ever. And I wouldn't even call it a rainbow palette because it's got colors in it that are not really in the rainbow color. So to me, it's like a perfect mixture really of a colorful palette and a pastel palette, if you like. So it's not really pulling extreme pastel shades in like your whitish kind of thing, but I want to say the diversity of the color in it, or how would I say it, the potency of the color. This is kind of giving me like a mini pastel vibe at the same time as colorful, which I think is probably why I love this palette so much, and also because it reminds me of candy. I mean, look how colorful it is. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. This blue, this section, oh, it's enough. It's enough to make this palette number 1. It's an absolutely beautiful palette. I mean, look at that. Different shades of shimmer, different shades of matte, beautiful, gorgeous shades. And I'm just going to try and swatch 4 shades so you can see or get the feel of this palette. I'm going to swatch 5 shades, and these are the 5 shades I'm swatching. So starting from this awkward one here. Look at that. Ah. And then finally the yellow shade. How beautiful these shades are. This palette is an absolutely beautiful palette. Gorgeous. Oh, look at that. I can't get over this palette. I cannot get over this palette. If just for this quad alone. Oh, absolutely lovely. I love this palette. And that is why the Cake palette is my #1 Glamlite palette. I for one am looking forward to them coming up with a palette like the Cake palette, the ice cream palette once again, because like I said, the last 2 palettes they've come up with have not really wowed me. Now if you are new to Glamlite, the latest palette they've come up with, the collab, it's perfect because it's like a mixture of 3 or 4 of their palettes. So if you are new to Glamlite, that palette will be perfect for you because you would love it. You won't feel like you are repeating shades or you've had it or you've seen it before. Same goes for the Velvet palette. I already have the Beauty Bay one and I believe that they're just too similar. When that palette was going to come out, the Velvet one, I thought it was going to be like a main mix of reds as opposed to pinks, or I just wanted red, you know, variety of red, your burgundy red, your blood red, blue red, whatever red, orange red. That's what I was looking forward to, but it didn't disappoint in terms of formula or anything like that. It was just my choice. In terms of color, no, it wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for red, so for me it didn't wow me from that factor. But if you are new, you haven't got similar fascination with reds like me, you would love the palette. But for me, that's why I don't have any of those 2 palettes, and I hope very soon they will come up with something that will be perfect for me once again. But in the meantime, those are the 12 palettes I've got from Glamlite, and my ranking is based on how I feel about them, how I use them. I mean, the Cake palette I use all the time. And that's it, guys. That's my ranking of all my Glamlite palettes. And in future, when I feature them, you probably won't see some of this palette because I've decided to deport some of them, especially the Burger palette that has a lot of matte, because I believe it's going to be very useful, you know, with my other shimmer shades, but not on its own as a palette. And that's why I wanted to get this ranking out of the way. Okay, that's the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me. You've enjoyed this ranking. If you have, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'll see you.